Eating out is never boring in Jakarta. With options aplenty, the city is undoubtedly a food haven. Much of the growth is seen among the rising middle class. Along with increasing income, the urban population is undergoing a transformation in their diets.
Ya, menurut saya makanan atau kuliner di Jakarta itu beragam ya, mulai dari lokal atau Nusantara yang udah banyak banget variannya.
Kalau untuk kualitas makanan sekarang ya, misalnya kayak buah atau daging-daging itu udah berkembang banget, apalagi yang diimpor ya. Kayak rasanya tuh udah lebih enak. Kalau buah tuh kadang-kadang yang diimpor tuh lebih manis rasanya, kayak lebih fresh aja gitu. Sama yang daging-daging juga kayaknya lebih lembut gitu.
Di Jakarta tuh banyak banget jenis kulinernya, mulai dari masakan Nusantara, masakan Asia, masakan Barat, masakan Eropa, masakan dari Timur. Pokoknya jenis segala kuliner yang kalian cari itu ada. Jakarta surganya makanan banget.
Thanks to Indonesia's strong economic growth and the rapidly urbanizing society, local food demand has been expanding and consumers' preferences increasingly diverse, not only in the capital, but across the country's major cities. Today, Indonesia is one of the fastest growing consumer markets in the world, including for many agricultural commodities. A recent Australian study finds that along with the transformation of food consumption in Indonesia, there will be increasing pressure to meet the growing demand, as rising incomes encourage a shift from traditional staples to protein and grains-based diets. Given Indonesia's long-standing trade ties with Australia and the Indonesia-Australia Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement now in place, Australia stands ready to partner and support.
Hello, my name is Sondang Sirait and welcome to the Katalis podcast. In this edition, we come to you in a rather different format, but with just the same engaging content. Today, we'll be exploring Indonesia's growing appetite for finer foods. We'll put in perspective the link between Indonesia's food and beverage industry and its partners in Australia. We have two guests, Kim Pangestu, pastry chef at the Intercontinental Pondok, Indah, Jakarta, and Richard Simonaitis, CEO of the Australian Export Grains Innovation Centre. Thank you for joining us on the Katalis podcast.
Indonesian-Australian pastry chef Kim Pangestu started her culinary journey in Australia. With a chef diploma from the Le Cordon Bleu College of Culinary Arts in Sydney, she has worked alongside internationally celebrated chefs and gained expertise in leading Australian establishments. Today, she's known for her modern and contemporary take on desserts using fresh seasonal ingredients.
Hi, my name is Kim Pangestu. I'm the pastry chef of Intercontinental Jakarta Pondok Indah. In this hotel, me and my team, we in charge of dessert creation and production of the dessert, all the dessert. In this hotel, we have 17 function rooms. We have a grand ballroom that can fit in 3,500 packs. We have a few restaurants and also a lounge bar. So, one thing first, I live in Australia since I was 17 years old. So, I stay around 11 years old and I moved a different city. I used to live in Sydney, I used to live in Melbourne and in Perth. But I went to school when I was in Sydney. And I love Sydney a lot because in Sydney we have different area that, you know, the Italian, they have different area, and the Chinese and the Arab, and everybody have different area, different suburb. So when I was studying pastry, I went to a pastry school in Australia, but on my day off, on my of school day, I went to different area and try different dessert. I mean, like, of course, I love their lamingtons, I love their brownies, but I be able to try the Italian dessert also, the Arab and everything. And that's what I love about Australia, because I be able to learn so much from different country, but all in one country. Okay, so when I was in Australia, I love their dairy product. It's amazing. And I love their honey, actually. I love their honey because there is a specific honey, it's called the floral honey. And my favorite is actually the wildflower honey, because when I mix it into a dessert or like a cake, it has a distinctive flavor of flower, but actually it's made from honey. Okay, another thing for the Australian ingredient that I love to use is actually their oats. Me, myself, and in this hotel, we actually have a really beautiful oatmeal cookies. And our oat is actually, we use an Australian oat because of its good quality oats. Honestly, in Jakarta, I think you can never predict a current trend. Of course, we sometimes in Jakarta, we are following other countries' current trend. But honestly, for me, I have this philosophy that I want to create my own trend. I want to be a trendsetter in dessert. And this I learned from a chef that I respect so much and admire. His name is Adriano Zumbo. So when I was 25 or 26 years old, I was his team in Balmain in Sydney, and I love to see how he create a dessert. His creation is actually outside of the box, and I used to ask him when I think I was a commie at that time or a deep party, and I used to ask him like, how do you create an amazing dessert and you have your own trend? And he told me that look at your surrounding, look at your childhood favorite food, look at what you like, and you create a dessert out of it. And that's how I create my dessert. So with what's Jakarta current trend, you will never know. But for me, I create my own trend. Okay, so right now the people are willing to try, they're willing to taste more flavor. So I can play around more with flavor. I mean, like, I love to cross bridge between Australian flavor and Indonesian traditional flavor. And then example, like in this hotel actually, like we have a klepon cake. So it's a traditional dessert, but we make it into a cake. And we also have, I try to make unique flavor or unique taste. But currently, I want to make a healthy option. I want to make a nice cake, but with healthy ingredients. So my latest dessert creation will be a healthy, yummy, and comforting dessert. So another thing that I'm going to put in the menu is a carrot cake, but we are using stevia sugar. So it's actually good for people who have diabetic. And also, instead of milk in some of my dessert, I'm going to use an oat milk, so it's safer for them who have an allergy. Okay, I think it just take a few seconds to eat a dessert, but honestly, behind it is actually a long process of R&D and creation. Me personally, when I want to create a dessert, I will see the available ingredients around me or the things that I like. In Indonesia, we are very lucky because we have all the seasonal fruits. And one thing that I love is mango. So normally I will see what mango are in season, because like in Indonesia we have a different type of mango from different sources, and I love the ginjo mango. So I will get the mango and I will do a trial from a cake, panna cotta, or a variety of dessert, and I will see which one is matching with the mango. There's one time I did a trial 20 times, I think, but it's still not acceptable. But yeah, I give up. Sometimes I give up and then I stop it a bit. But after that, no way, man. Like, I want to keep trying, you know. So that mango dessert, it take me around 30 times, 30 trial, and then it's finalized. So a long process with R&D development, because after that, after you make things that you like, and then you need to count the food cost as well. And then you need to test the market, whether the people like it or not. And after that, we need to set the pricing, the packaging. So it's a long process to create a dessert, I think, yeah.
Wheat is the principal crop grown and exported by Australian farmers, grown across the country. Every year, Australian farmers produce 25 million metric tons of wheat on average, of which 70% is exported. Australian wheat is highly valued for their performance across popular food products, including breads, cakes, noodles, and many more. Indonesia is a key market for Australian wheat, where it's milled into flour. Here, as it is elsewhere in Asia, Australian wheat is increasingly in demand. By going into Australia's key grains markets such as Indonesia, the Australian Export Grains Innovation Centre identifies current and future grains requirements and increases value in the industry.
Hi, Richard. Thanks for being on the Katalis podcast.
Morning, Sondang. I'm happy to be here today.
So, Richard, you're no stranger to Indonesia. Tell us about your experience engaging with Indonesia so far.
Sure, happy to do that. Obviously the last 6 years at AGIC, so the Australian Export Grains Innovation Centre, and AGIC is really the market-facing arm of the Australian grains industry. So we work closely with the customers who are buying grain out of Australia, and our job is to provide the technical support so that we can take the market insights that we hear from our customers and then address their concerns with science-based evidence, and then go back to the customers and explain to them how Australian grains can be more profitable for their business, improve their efficiency, and give them a good reason to want to be repeat customers for AGIC. So we're a fairly small company, but that work, Indonesia is our biggest market and it's our biggest investment. So there's an annual investment there into this work specifically aimed at the Indonesian market of around $1.25 million Australian dollars annually. So that will be technical seminars, webinars presenting various new pieces of technology or measurement, and pre-COVID, a lot of time in the market working with the flour millers, with the bakers, with the noodle manufacturers, typically in R&D centres, providing evidence-based science to say here's everything that's great about Australian wheat, and we love that Indonesia is our biggest customer most years. Have had probably 10 years experience in and out of Indonesia now, and I think once you work there and you get to know the people at a personal level, you can't help but fall in love with Indonesia and want to do everything you can to see it grow and prosper.
How would you describe the appetite for Australian wheat among Indonesian consumers?
So, historically it's been a fantastic relationship. Obviously we're close, so the freight makes it really accessible for Indonesia, and the unique properties of Australian wheat around its suitability, especially for noodles, is very well understood in Indonesia. Obviously there's some generational change, and as the young ones take over the business from mama and papa, we've got to get back and re-educate them about exactly why, for example, Australian wheat is going to give you wider, brighter noodles. They're going to last longer in the fresh market before they start to look grey. And we can show them that using science, for example, versus cheaper wheat from other places in the world. So, unfortunately, there's been times where Australia's had droughts and we can't supply, or it's made us very expensive. And we understand that Indonesia needs affordable wheat to feed its population. So, there's times where it doesn't work, but, AGIC, our view is that Indonesia is much more than just a market. Indonesia is a fantastic strategic ally. We agree on most of the global conventions around free trade and free market access and those sorts of things. And Indonesia is a friend of ours. So when we don't have something to supply, or when the pricing is too high, then what are the three points of the triangle in a relationship with your customer is about price, quality, and service. So if price is not working and we don't have anything to sell, or we're too expensive, it goes against logic, but our response to that is actually to increase our investment into Indonesia and say, well, if price is not working and the traders don't have anything, so the sellers out of Australia don't have anything to talk to the buyers in Indonesia about, then we need to step forward and increase the service offering and actually touch the customers more and show them, here's everything that's great about Australian wheat. We still love you. Sorry we can't supply at the moment, or we're too expensive. But when we recover and we can come back, so just keep putting that value proposition in front of the customers and providing the technical support that they themselves can extract value out of, and improve their own businesses in either efficiency or profitability. So, it's important that you're talking to your customers even when they're not a buyer, and that you're working hard on the relationship. So, we invest heavily into that, and we believe in it. It's in our DNA at AGIC to want to work like that with, there's long-standing relationships, and we want to give them the attention that they deserve.
If you look at Indonesia now, I think what we're seeing is a host of changes in lifestyle, changes in consumer habits, all of which are driven by rising incomes. People are switching to protein-based diet. They have a penchant for grains-based foods, breads, cakes, you name it. From an industry perspective, what do those changes mean?
Yeah, it's really exciting and interesting, and the change is very rapid. So I was presenting somewhere recently to one of the grower groups, and somebody said to me, Rich, in the 5 or 6 years that you've been in AGIC, what has been the biggest change that you've seen in the industry? And my answer was very fast and very simple. The biggest change has been the power that consumers have. So in the past, our markets were constructed pretty much with a push model where you stood in the market and said, I've got something to sell. But now, the young generation, and Indonesia is a young country, very tech savvy, highest users in the world of some of these apps and things. my kids are 23 and 24, and they can very quickly gather evidence to make a decision before they buy something. And we're seeing that flow through the markets now. So consumers are making decisions based on evidence. So it's not about, they're not listening to the person that's trying to sell them something anymore. They're going to get independent evidence and making up their own mind. So the old days, of being able to push what you're trying to sell is evolving rapidly, and the aggregation of those behaviours spread across a massive population like Indonesia, it really changes where the demand drivers are coming from. So, what you're seeing is where decisions in the past may have been made around, price and quality, now things are coming into it like environmental credentials and greenhouse gas credentials and production systems and labour exploitation. So all of these sort of ESG factors are starting to become part of the decision making that's flowing through our markets. And the diet succession phenomenon will continue. So clearly, as people get richer, they eat less rice. Well, they start to eat first a noodle product, then a bread product, then a confectionery product, and then more meat and fruits for cutting and vegetables, those sort of things. So we understand that very well. We're also far enough in front of it where we've seen the negative impacts on health. Asia has half of the heart disease in the world and 30% of the diabetes. So in some of these countries, getting back to a grain-based diet, especially a whole grain diet, and the health-giving properties that can give, when you multiply that across the health economics of these massive populations, it's a super important piece, and we want to make sure we elevate that over these next few years in the Asian markets, and really where in the past we might have been talking exclusively to the flour millers, now we want to start to talk to the health people in their governments and say, look, there's a great story here that can save a lot of money for your country. I think in a country as small as Australia, we're only 25 million people. If everybody ate their daily amount recommended for whole grains, we would save about $1.5 billion a year off our health budget. So, that's a lot of money. That's 10 schools or 10 hospitals, that you can build. So, we'd love to work with governments in understanding what that can mean across the health of a population like Indonesia, and offering what advice, what information actually and evidence we've got to support that.
Well, that brings us to the end of this episode of the Katalis podcast. Thank you for watching, and we hope you will join us again next time. Do check us out on social media and on our website. I'll see you in the next episode.